Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Carita Geib, and I'm Director of Parent and Family Relations here at Villanova University. You're here with us this evening for the parent-to-parent panel. Let me start by congratulating you. We are so happy for the students that I'm sure are lurking in the background and maybe listening in a little bit. Congratulations and welcome to Villanova University. And congratulations to the families who are here joining us. Whether your students decided to join us this fall or they're still working through that decision-making process, we know you've been a major part of it. You've been a listener, you've been a supporter, a cheerleader, and a great sounding box. And I'm sure at this point, if you're anything like me, you're glad that part's over, and now the fun begins with the decision making. Hopefully this evening, these next 58 minutes or so, we'll get to drive you a little bit further along the path of getting to know Villanova. You'll be able to hear, I think quite a few times you're going to hear throughout the night, community, connection, and thriving and flourishing. And I think that that's a pattern that you're going to like to hear this evening, but you're also going to hear throughout the evening. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about my role here at Villanova before we get started. I mentioned that I'm in Parent and Family Relations. This office is kind of the connector and support for your student as they attend Villanova. The office is embedded within student life, and the goal really is for your student to flourish. We know that students are more likely to feel like they're thriving and to feel successful when they're supported not only by their university, but by the folks who care about them the most, their friends and their family. The way that we're going to do that is be a partner with you. We're going to make sure that you have proactive communication throughout this school year. We're going to connect you with resources so that you can be that voice that can listen to your student and help them make those big decisions that are inevitably going to face them at some point while at Villanova. So without further ado, I think we're going to get started. I'm going to ask our panelists that have joined us this evening to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about your student or students that you have here or who have recently graduated, and maybe one meaningful experience that they've had so far. I'll get started because I am a parent of a current sophomore here. My daughter is a psychology major, education minor, along with a disability services minor as well. And I think probably the most meaningful experience that she's had so far and formative has been the work that she's doing with Best Buddies, which is a group that works with students and people who have some learning differences, and they partner with them through physical activity, social connection, and Julia's really grown and found a niche and potentially a career because of her experience with these people. I'm going to turn it over to Anna Moreland, if she can get us started with her experience and her daughter.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Anna Moreland. I have a sophomore at Villanova, Sebastian. He is a chemistry major and a humanities minor. My most meaningful experience, I'm starting things off kind of on a serious note. At the end of his first semester of his first year, the work got kind of overwhelming for him and he stopped going to class, and 2 faculty members and his advisor reached out to him. And I thought, wow, that's really impressive that he has so many eyes on him as a first semester first year student, and it made the difference. And he's doing really well. He's apparently going to class now, and doing well in his classes. So it's just the sort of eyes on the student that Villanova has that I've really appreciated as a parent.
That's great. That's really nice. Walidah, how about you get us?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Walidah Justice. My son, Imavar, is a current freshman, and he is about to declare communications as his major. He's pretty excited about that after classes that he took actually starting this semester. He is on the track team, so his experience sometimes is a little different than other students. That was something that he was excited about to try, but he was also a little leery about, so he was a walk-on. But the experience has been wonderful. The team is very supportive. He loves his coaches. Besides that experience, I will say the other thing that's been meaningful to him is he did one of the pre-orientation programs, actually STOVES, which is St. Thomas of Villanova Scholars. It's connected with CASA, which is the Center for Success, Access, and Achievement. He did not want to do that program. He was like, I know Villanova, I don't need this pre-orientation program. He went to that program and found some of his closest friends and actually said to me he better understood what his study habits needed to be and what level of grading he needed to do based on the 2 courses he took through that summer program. So I will say, I think he learned a lot about the gap between high school and college is pretty wide. Students think they can scale it fairly easily, and any extra help that you can get, especially in the summer before you start, is very helpful.
It's fantastic. Great insight, and great insight from such a young person too. It's nice to hear. That's really great. Lynne and Dohn, do you want to introduce yourselves for us?
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm Lynne Millard, and
I'm Don Millard.
we are the parents of Dean Millard, who is a current junior. And we actually live in close proximity to Villanova. We're only about 15 minutes away. Dean does live on campus, so that's a must, even if you live close by. The experience being on campus is really important. We don't see Dean any more than anyone whose child lives in Florida or Chicago or anywhere else. So even though we're close, we don't see him. It's just been a wonderful experience for him. And it's really hard. We were trying to debrief, like, what do we say was most meaningful? And I think there's so many, but I think, Don, you want to share?
I think the most meaning experience for Dean, he had a chance to be a part of the DC Mini-Mester. I believe that was his sophomore year. And this year he goes back in May as a leader for a new set of students who's going to go through. And Dean has just thrived at Villanova University. He embraces everything Villanova. He is a student government vice president. He's running for president. He's part of the ambassador program. What's the name of it again?
I'm not sure.
It's so many different programs, but he has embraced the culture and everything about Villanova. He even tells promising students who are looking to come, he'll give one-on-one tours if he can. And it's just been a wonderful experience for him.
And I just wanted to say that he came in undecided, which I thought was like a little scary. Couldn't understand why you didn't want to come. You didn't know what you wanted to do, but he was able very quickly within the first year to declare a major of being a political science communications major. And he has just blossomed in so many ways.
Great. And it's nice. I get to see Dean frequently. He has an office right next to mine. So it's a joy to have him popping in and out all the time. So my classmate, Christopher Duff, is also here to join us this evening. Chris, do you want to give us a rundown of where things are with your family?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carita. Yes, Christopher Duff. My daughter, Olivia, she is a freshman, Villanova School of Nursing, class of 27. I myself, with my colleague Carita, we are class of 1998. I was Villanova School of Business with a finance major. My wife is Villanova class of 1997 of a nursing major. So to say we have Wildcat blood running through our veins is understatement. My uncle graduated in the late 60s. I have that on my wall. It's a reminder of all my Zooms for business, which I get a lot of comments because anyone in the tri-state area will know that, I mean, you'll run into people of Villanova all over the tri-state area at basketball games, on the street. They're everywhere. I did not grow up in the tri-state area. I grew up in Michigan. I came to Villanova blind, and it was awesome. It is a place that will bring out whatever trait in your child that child has, and it'll just make them better. I am a huge believer in that. Carita can attest. I was big into the orientation program. That was my thing. That was my niche. And it is a super unique program that, as I told my daughter has done the Special Olympics program in her year at Villanova. I told her that you get out of college in general, wherever you go to college, as much as you put into it. Villanova is one of those places, though, that will naturally just allow you to, it'll come out of you. It's weird. I can't explain it until you're there. The orientation program is one of those places too, where it's very unique. You spend a couple days on campus. Some people may think it's a little lengthy, but trust me, if you embrace it, if you just like kind of like almost surrender to it, you get it. And that's exactly how I described to her going into Villanova. Just let yourself embrace it. And she got it. She is a little bit of an introverted girl. She is coming out of her shell in her own way. And that's exactly what we wanted. We told her, where the mother and father went to Villanova, that she did not have to go to Villanova. She chose it. And it was, I mean, listen, we're thrilled. But yeah, you will all see, God willing, what I mean. But yes, the place is just a wonderful place with a great community. You'll hear that word, as Carita said, many, many times over.
That's great. Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah.
And Jeanne and Steve, last but not least, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm Steve Liedtka. I teach accounting in the business school. And I'll let Jeanne introduce herself in a
I'm Jeanne Liedtka,
moment.
and I teach business law also in the business school.
We have 3 daughters, 2 of whom are Villanova graduates and one who just started as a freshman. And before I let Jeanne take over and talk some specifics, the prompt was pick a meaningful activity. It's actually tricky because something about Villanova is the opportunities to work with other people are nonstop. All 3 of my daughters were so hyper involved in so many different things, including the leadership living community, which maybe will come up later. And they've all become leaders that I didn't see this coming. Oh my gosh, by the time they graduated, they all were in charge of multiple things. And the 2 that graduates are doing great things in the world. My freshman's already ready to help take over at the Special Olympics and other things. And it's just, it's been absolutely magical for us.
So our oldest daughter was a civil engineering graduate in 2020. And for her involvement with the band was really a significant part of her college experience. And in fact, she just came back this weekend from a bachelorette party with her friends from the band that she met the first week
that's
before
great.
class even started. As a freshman, she formed friendships with these young women, and they're still friends, 4 years after graduation. So that's really been a key part of her experience. Our second daughter graduated from the business school with an accounting degree. And she was, as Steve said, very involved. She was on the crew team. She was on the equestrian team. And she was in Business Without Borders. I mean, she did a bunch of different things. But we really saw like all the opportunities she took really helped her grow and develop as a person. So that was really fun to watch her sort of blossom with all these experiences. And then our youngest is the one who's just started also in civil engineering. And she has just loved the Special Olympics experience, which was frankly exhausting. I mean, they start out like 4 in the morning and they go until 10 at night. And she was just exhilarated by the experience. And she's trying out for more of a leadership position for Special Olympics to help run the Special Olympics event next year. So they've all kind of found their own niches, but it's really fun to watch them sort of find their people and grow.
And that's what I think one of the neatest things about Villanova, and I think we're going to illustrate that later with some of the questions that some of the audience has asked already, is just the evolution of the student. They come in thinking they want one thing and they try something new, and their experience grows in a direction they never thought of. So I think we'll get started. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. And thank you to the audience who've already sent in some questions. We'll get started with those. Anybody that has questions throughout the evening that's sparked by some of the conversation or something that you heard or thought of, please go ahead and use that Q&A button or the Q&A window, not the chat, please, so that we can get to those questions and they can get pushed out to us as quickly as possible. So I heard a lot of questions talking about how does my student get acclimated to Villanova? Whether my student is coming from Michigan or they're coming from 15 minutes down the road, what does Villanova do to get them onto campus and feeling like they're a part of campus? Could someone, maybe Anna, I know that that Seb has some great experience, but could you talk to us a little bit about orientation and what those first few days look like for a new student?
I'm sure. So yeah, my son Sebastian is an orientation leader and now he's on orientation steering. So I guess he's following in Chris Duff's footsteps. And I am on faculty at Villanova and I have to say, I might have in the past kind of mocked orientation a little bit because the students come in the first day and they're exhausted. And so I just kind of make jokes about it until my son goes through it. And it's like a really powerful experience for him. And he feels totally like a member of Villanova by the end. He's made good friends. I'm not even sure what happens, but whatever it was, he was so happy, so much so that the next year, when he was an orientation leader this last year, at the end of it, he says to me, Mama, it was the best 4 days of my life. To which I'm thinking, like, we've provided you with a pretty great life, and being an orientation leader was the best 4 days of your life. Like, what? But it really is, it's an intense 4 days, but there's a lot that students talk about serious things and they get to know each other, and not in a creepy way, but in a great way. The orientation leaders are, really excellent. And yeah, I just, honestly, it's pretty incredible what they do, like what they manage to do in those 4 days. And it is exhausting, but
Yeah.
but the students end that kind of boot camp as a real member of this community, and it sticks. It's really something.
Yeah, and that during that time frame, during those 4 days as well, in addition to getting to know and connecting with a class, the students will also get to meet their advisors. They'll have some time with them so that they can make that initial connection with them. They'll get the ins and outs of how to get from, South Campus to West most quickly and efficiently, or stop and grab that coffee in the 15, 20 minutes that you do have in between classes on those busy days. So there are those integral parts of it as well. Anna, you mentioned orientation counselors. Those orientation counselors are part of that 4 day, but they also go beyond and kind of network and become that mentor through that time as well. How about, did any of you guys participate in any of the opening day, like we have a family resource fair on opening day during orientation? Was anyone able to participate in any of those activities? From a parent perspective and a family perspective, what can our new families expect, as they come into Villanova during that orientation period? Lynne, did you want to?
Yeah, we did participate in the resource fair. It was an opportunity for Dean and for the students to really start to get connected to many of the activities and many of the supports and different programs. So it was really kind of, if I recall, it was kind of set up like in the large kind of quad area. And it was just an opportunity to just explore and just connect with students and a lot of the different programs and activities and clubs that were there. From what I understand, that they have those involvement fairs often, and it's an opportunity to begin to join in the beginning of the semester and to try different things out. So, Dean has continued to participate each year to just kind of explore different opportunities that are available. And he's enjoyed, just having a real wide breadth of experiences as a result of going to meet students and faculty and just learning about different opportunities on the campus.
Great. So with that, this whole new experience, orientation's exhausting, but super fun. And it's a great way to get started. One of the other new experiences for these students is living with a person they don't know for the first time. And that's a pretty big transition piece. I can remember moving with my roommate, who we remain best friends today. It worked out beautifully for us, but it's a big transition. how did that go for your students? How did they select the person that they lived with? Chris, you have a current
Yeah.
first year student. Can you
Yeah.
talk to that?
It's so different, Carita. I mean, we graduated, we went to Villanova a quarter of a century ago.
Thanks.
Which is mind-boggling. It was, all done via phone and letters. Now it's social media. The world is a different place. And that's how a lot of these students do, either whether admitted or that's how they sort of introduce and communicate with some of these new students. My daughter just happened to be a town over. I live on Long Island, and one of her friend groups happened to know a girl that lived one town over from me who happened to go to Villanova, and they, again, via social media started communicating, and they met up and they wound up becoming roommates. I went blind. My roommate's from Wilmington, Massachusetts. I'm from Michigan. Like Carita, we talk to this day. And I have a number of many of my best friends, my best men at my wedding, all Villanova grads. I'm still friendly with all my high school guys in Michigan. But again, my daughter found her roommate through friends of high school. There's no standard platform, but I will say social media does play a role in some of the meeting of these students. And again, if your student happens to go completely blind, I'm living proof it works. It will. Again, you find your way just by going through the process of that the university ultimately affords you.
Did anyone else have a student that went through the I don't always like to say the random process, but did anyone have that experience? Right. So I think it's always funny to use that random word because I think there is a little bit of science behind it. Your students will actually fill out a questionnaire. We ask that the student answer the questions, not the family, about how you perceive your child as being neat or messy, when they like to study. It's really important that the student answers that questionnaire just so that the residence life group can feed those accurate answers through a computer system that will actually kind of read through and bring together the best matches. We really find that it works tremendously well. It
does, Carita. I remember my daughter filled it out, and it absolutely helped her find roommates, her roommate very well.
Yeah. So, we highly recommend that, but ultimately I think families will work with their student to do, what works for them, staying with the living thing, Communitas is a living and learning community option here at Villanova. And I think several of our families have students who participated in the Communitas program. We did do a session the other evening with Alicia Dunphy-Culp about the first year experience as well as Communitas. But I'm wondering, Steve and Jeanne, could you talk a little bit about your students' experience in Communitas and what that was like?
So all three of our girls went through the leadership program. So they all lived in the same dorm as the other students in the leadership cohort. And they had one of the required freshman classes, Augustinian Culture Seminars, or ACS, it's called, with just students in that program. So they're actually living in the same place as students that they're in a class together with. And then there would be some programming that was particular to that group, kind of on the topic of leadership. And it was nice, again, to the extent the freshman year process is about sort of finding your people and finding these groups that you have something in common with. This is just another opportunity for our girls to try and, meet people who have something, an interest in common with them. And then it's structured so they get to spend some extra time with them. So they're living in the dorm with them. They're taking a class together. Sometimes there's I think the older ones had a side trip into Philadelphia. They did like a tour of Philadelphia together. So it was just another opportunity for them to sort of engage and get to know some of their classmates and friends a little bit better. But they all very much liked it. And two of them went on to do the sophomore service learning community the following year, which is based on a similar sort of living together model where you do a lot of community service as part of that program.
That's great. Anyone else have an experience in Communitas with any of the other functions?
We did also. Dean participated in the leadership communitas, and it was very similar to what Jeanne said. He just loved it. I think it really helped him to find his way to his major also, in terms of being a political science communications major and just all the other opportunities that opened up for him. So he also really enjoyed the experience and thought that it really helped in terms of learning about the Augustinian traditions and texts that he told me, and also just the values. He said that that experience and what he learned could help to translate values to life.
That's great. Wow. Well said. I got to get Dean working here.
He also works in the writing center. So he
Okay. There you go.
He likes to write and speak. So, but that's what he
Very
shared.
well said.
But so
That is very well said. Yeah, Communitas is one of those programs that I think is fantastic. I actually was just talking, my son, I got to add a P28 to my name the other night. My son decided to come and we had a deep dive into, I went right for Communitas, and one of his worries, frankly, was, is it more work? Like, I feel like it's going to be a really big transition. And one of the things that we always say is there's no book. There's no book for Communitas. It's really about the connections that you were talking about. It gives the students a little bit more place. And it's a wonderful, I think, a really great connection, as both of you have mentioned, kind of an anchor, another touch point for a student that is going away from home for the first time. Communitas is taught by a lot of our student life colleagues here. So they have a workload, but they also have all these other interests within faith and reasoning. They have that the art and culture, where they're going to go out and explore Philadelphia and the different arts here on campus as well. So it is a really fantastic option for students. Let's talk a little bit about involvement. One of the things that I think a lot of our students are super used to is being really, really involved at home in their high school worlds. And what does that look like when they come to Villanova? Walidah, I know that your son was an athlete in high school and has a story to tell here already at Villanova. How did he, get started here on campus? What did that look like those first few weeks for him here?
So I will say for Emavar, what was helpful is that summer program that he did. He felt like he already knew people. He actually met his advisor in the summer. And as well as me being an alum, he had different connections. So he, I think, came into orientation feeling like, I know this place and I'm very comfortable. What I will say is what was sort of a learning curve was being a Division I athlete. Which is a very different experience than being a high school athlete. And he was a very talented high school athlete that was in a lot of different sports, but this was a different level, and just learning and understanding a level of discipline that he had to have between school and balancing athletics is something that I think he has grown into very nicely and has been quite successful, but it definitely was a learning curve of how do you balance that. He was pretty involved in extracurriculars in high school. So coming to college and having to say, I might not be able to do that because I have to dedicate some time to focusing on track and field. That I think was a little hard for him at first, but I think he has learned to navigate that to the best of his ability and has stuck to the groups and clubs that fit within his time space, learning to sort of manage your time and balance it in terms of what is possible in your schedule so that you can still do well in school. And I actually will say the athletics department does a really good job of helping those students in terms of the support services they provide to get into a groove with their time management. So I think he has adjusted and has done that fairly well. In addition, they do have different activities, different, I think, sessions that are helpful to him at different points. But I will say, I think he wants to get more involved in other aspects of campus. And CASA is probably the one he's most connected with, the Center for Access, Success, and Achievement. And that connection came with the summer program that he did. So he's keeping that. And then he's very active in the Black Student Union. And he's actually very active in campus ministry. He's in several Bible studies, which has been something that I think has anchored him too, that he has really enjoyed very much.
That's great. How does a new student, how did your new students, if you can think back, how did they find those initial activities? Was it through our student involvement fair, through the residence halls? How did that initial jump in happen there for them? Go ahead, Steve.
For our kids, it was a combination of there were things they were interested in. So for example, our oldest two were in the band in high school, so it was natural for them to try the band. But also through the student fairs and other events, they were exposed. The menu was unlimited. And so if there's a challenge at Villanova, and others already spoke to it, it is you can't do it all, right? But so for example, our youngest daughter met people from the cornhole club, and they talked her into joining cornhole. And on one hand, what the heck? Meet people, go try something different. Maybe you're gonna love it. And regardless of whether she sticks with that particular club, just the experience of doing something you've never done before, right? Meeting new people. Already her social skills are going through the roof. She's got friends everywhere on campus through all her new clubs, and I don't think she'll regret any of the clubs, including some of them have to give at some point because she's joining everything. But the experience has been wonderful for
her. Steve mentioned that involvement fair. It's usually right after orientation. We host a really large involvement fair. I think there's over 250 registered clubs here on campus. So that is the time that students do drop their names onto those lists so that they can start learning about it. And this is the time, I love that you said that, Steve. This is the time to try something crazy and to, really get into something that you've always wanted to do, but maybe we're a little bit afraid to. College is a time to take those chances. And I love that Villanova gives that platform to the students to go ahead and give those things a try. One of, I think we are getting a lot of questions about Greek life here on campus. We do have a Greek system here with fraternities, sororities, and a multicultural organization as well. So those are alive and well here on campus. We do, just to give you a little bit of background, we have a deferred recruitment session. What that means is that students do not participate in recruitment, whether they're interested right at the get-go. They can learn about it through the information fair, but there is no recruitment process until the second semester. And we do that really intentionally so that as you've heard this evening already, that first semester is really important for getting grounded. It's important for going to classes. That's that education piece is very, very important. So we want to make sure that students are finding that groove, finding that routine. They know who they are. They know what it's going to take to get in and out of the classroom, and to start accomplishing great things through their education. But we do have that system here on campus. It is open to students in every major. So you're not locked down if you're in engineering or if you're in nursing. There are requirements that are outlined on the fraternity and sorority website. I think it's a GPA of a 2.75 plus some other, requirements about being in good standing with the university. So as long as those requirements are met, students are welcome to participate in that recruitment process. So my daughter is part of a sorority here on campus, and it has opened her up to some great experiences. I don't know if I think that Steve and Jeanne, your daughter, is also, and I think Chris as well, is part of a member of a Greek sorority.
Yes, I was in the fraternity at Villanova a million years ago. My wife was not. She regrets it. And my daughter is now in her second semester at Villanova. She did the rush process. The sororities, they come back a week early from Christmas break, and they go through, as Carita mentioned, a very well detailed sort of rush process. And again, I stress that my daughter was relatively introverted, and even getting her to the point of even thinking about being on a Zoom call in front of all these women and talking about herself, and it terrified her. And it was actually an amazing thing. It really brought out things in her that we never thought we'd see. She loves it. She loves the sorority she's in. She found her sorority. There are lots of sororities, and you will go on websites and they'll probably read about things that, oh, this is the good one, this is the bad one. No such thing. There's a sorority for you. It's your personality, and she found that one, and it was a great match for her. And like I said, she's met some wonderful friends thus far, and it is not like your Greek system that you're going to see at a larger campus. There's no fraternity row. There's nothing like that at Villanova. But there is like as Carita mentioned, a well-defined Greek system if one chooses to partake.
Right. And it is just one of the many social outlets that's here on campus. The organizations that we've already talked about, whether it's Special Olympics, Nova Dance that we just had, and the students raised over $600,000 in 12 hours for pediatric cancer, which is phenomenal. Those organizations lead to this incredible network of social engagement and social experience where they're giving back to the communities, but also having fun while doing that. So our students are coming here for an incredible education. And I would love for some of our faculty members to talk to the experience of when a student comes in to Villanova and, they may want to change a major or they want to select classes. Steve or Anna or Jeanne, could you talk to us a little bit about how that advising process goes, and when you're working with students and what that looks like? And then if a student were to want to go ahead and change a major, what does that process look like?
Well, we're in the business school, and students apply directly into the business school. So once you're in the business school, you would have you don't have to declare your major until your sophomore year. And there's a course as part of the freshman curriculum that it's called Business Dynamics. It allows the freshmen to try a little bit of all the different disciplines available in the business school. So they get to try a little bit of, they're exposed to some finance and accounting and marketing and management and all that sort of stuff. So by the time they have to make that decision, they've had some exposure to all those disciplines as part of their core curriculum. It is possible to switch majors. I've had a student who was a finance major and then got to about second semester of junior year and just said, I can't do this. I really want to do something else. And, luckily had room in her schedule that she was able to take the required classes for another major and still graduate on time. So that wasn't an issue at all. And then I used to be on the committee that oversaw either applications for students from other colleges to come into the business school to get a business minor, or who are looking for internal transfers into the business school. And that can be a little bit harder if you're trying to switch into the business school, because we just don't have that many open chairs in the classrooms to put new bodies in. So that kind of depends on the amount of room available. So that can be a little bit tougher because it's just competitive. There's a lot of people applying for just a couple of seats. So it's possible. It is definitely possible, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Another option is we have something called the Summer Business Institute, where you can get a business minor in a summer. So if you're interested in business experience, but you're not in the business school, there's still an option to get that business programming in a summer session. And then the other thing I would just say is we see a lot of students who want to get, 2 majors and 3 minors because they think that's going to look great on their resume, which it may. But it also kind of boxes them into and limits what they're taking in terms of their schedule. So we often say, why do you need 3 minors? If you're interested in this subject, take a class or 2, but then you're limiting your ability to take classes in subjects you don't know anything about, and you're limiting your ability to explore. So sometimes students feel better if they can put all those things on their resume, but an employer will be just as impressed if you can say, I took some courses in this area, but I also learned, Japanese or calligraphy or something else. So just keep that in mind. Your students should have this opportunity to explore and try new topics, and not necessarily feel like they have to be tied into meeting certain degree programs just to get that minor or other certification.
If I can jump in and address the question from a different perspective, helping people select their majors and move their way forward. Our intro classes are small. You will get to know your professor. You will get to chat with Jeanne or myself or whoever your instructor is about careers and such. And then I peeked at the chat room and there was questions about the alumni network, including on the West Coast. That's relevant because we integrate our alums in classes all the time. So I'm always telling people, hey, I'm interested, student says, hey, I'm interested in more in accounting. Can I learn more? Hey, don't take my word for it. I set up 2 lunches last week. KPMG treated 12 of our students to dinner, and alumni were so excited to come back and tell people about their experiences. And then Deloitte 2 days later treated students to a fancy dinner. Same thing. As just one example of just how amazing our network is. I talk to alums every single day. I have at least one former student reach out to me every single day I'm here. I had students interested in forensic accounting, investigative accounting. And if you've ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, about a guy,
Yes.
Frank Abagnale, who pretended to be a pilot, et cetera, et cetera. One of our alums works, he runs AARP, right? The huge charity for retired people. Says, you know what? I can connect you with them. 3 of my students got 1 hour, one-on-one time, 3-on-1 time with Frank Abagnale from Catch Me If You Can to talk about his career. Ever since that movie, he's been in investigative work. The network's incredible. So our students are getting it from us and they're getting it from alums. By the time they graduate, they know what the different careers are all about.
That's great. That is a great story. I had no idea that Catch Me If You Can connection happened. I'll have something to share with the family when I go back home tonight. That's very cool. And I was the first member of that Summer Business Institute. I was the first cohort of SBI as a communications major. And I really think that got me into the then Big Five as a business consultant. So I really appreciate that experience. And it's only grown, that Summer Business Institute, over the years. So Villanova is a rigorous academic program, between the academics and, but then the incredible activities that are there. There's a balance that students are going to learn. They sometimes learn it by failing, they're going to make some mistakes along the way. But let's talk about some of the support services that are in place here at the university to kind of pick the students up before they have trouble, so that a student can reach out to those services. What does that look like? Anna, can you talk a little bit about from a Villanova perspective, and then Chris or Walidah, I would love to hear from parents how your students may have used some of the services that we do have in place here at Villanova.
Sure. So the Augustine and Culture Seminar, which is the first year kind of great booksy seminar that every Villanova student will take, it wraps into it an exposure to learning support services. So it exposes students, I think, have to attend the Writing Center so that it makes them go at least once. And once they've had a good experience there, they know they can go back. There are really services, learning support services is outstanding. They work in partnership with faculty to help students succeed. And they've really grown. I mean, honestly, the need for learning support services has grown a lot over the 17 years that I've been here. There's a math resource center. I mean, they're all over, the resources are all over campus. The key though, is at a university like Villanova, that first year seminar introduces students to those resources. So it's not just sort of overwhelming, oh my gosh, if I have a problem, let me find something. We've anchored the support services into that first year seminar. So every student is introduced to what's available. And it works. I mean, it's a really strong university, but it's still, I always say it still functions like a mom and pop shop in some ways. And that's a real strength of the place because your students are cared for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they kind of help that, I think, at different points throughout the students' academic experience here, I think that they're going to reach out and need, a tutor or that type of thing. there is tutoring services, as Anna mentioned, that students can get to. There's also, there's groups I know within the nursing program that they're constantly taught how to take the tests for the NCLEX, that's actually woven into the curriculum so that as they prepare for that aspect upon graduation, they've had that experience with that test, throughout that learning process. So speaking of services that we do have on campus, have any of your students used any of the other services that we have, whether it's health promotion, counseling center, health services, that you feel comfortable sharing about that experience? Walidah? Sure.
So my son, probably about 2 months into school, started having panic attacks. He had never had those before. And he called me and he said, I'm not sure why I'm having these, but I think I need to get some help because I can't figure out how to stop them. And he was worried that he was going to, suffer in other areas. So what I suggested to him was to go to the counseling center and actually talk to someone. I said, you can talk to me, but I said, I am not a counselor. And I said, there could be things that they could talk to you about that might help you understand how to manage when this happens to you, since this is new and you have no idea how to actively go about coping with this, if this is going to be part of your experience here in school. So he took me up on that. He called me on a Saturday night. So I will say this, which is really interesting. I said to him, I don't think the counseling center is open, but I said, I remember when I went to Admitted Students Day, and they talked about there being an online version where students could do like telehealth.
Yes.
And you could contact them. And I said, what I'd suggest on a Saturday night is to contact them, see if you can talk to a counselor immediately. And he did do that. And then what he did was go online to make an appointment with the counseling center for that Monday. And they were able to fit him in. So what I would say is oftentimes students, if they've never worked with counselors, don't see that as being a support that they need. He went there, found them to be very welcoming, very supportive, did not make him feel as though this was not a normal part of being a college student. They put him at great ease. And they told him that, whenever situations come up, you just go online, you stop by the office, you let us know. They have groups counseling. But I would say, because kids are a lot more anxious and they're dealing with a lot more mental health issues, that the counseling center can be a resource, especially if a student is feeling overwhelmed.
That's great. That's a very great insight. I'm glad he got the help that he needed to get to. We do have a robust health service building that houses university counseling. Everything is right there on campus. It's right across the way from the Villanova School of Business. Students are able to schedule appointments. Anyone can go into that center at any time, 24/7. We have doctors, nurse practitioners, and nurses on staff within the health center, so that students can get there if they're sick, and get scripts written for them if necessary. So that is there. And Walidah, it was great from a counseling center perspective that if there's not a person right in there at that moment, there is telehealth available to the students as well. And from a health promotion perspective, we constantly have programming happening here on campus so that students are connected to healthy living and healthy ways of living. One of the great things that I take advantage of every Wednesday is pet therapy. There are dogs and cats and other animals constantly walking around campus, and it really does wonders for the mind and for the body. That's for sure. That there are so many programs. We've gotten a couple of questions about how families, we have Admitted Students Day coming up in right after break. I believe it's April 13th. And we've gotten a couple of questions from families. Did you attend that? Is it worthwhile? And what can we expect to come out of that with at the end of the day after Admitted Students Day? So Lynne and Dohn, do you want to give a swing at that one?
Well, unfortunately, when Dean came, it was COVID, so he didn't have an Admitted Students Day. So he kind of missed that experience.
Yeah.
However, there was a lot of, in lieu of being in person and doing that, there was a lot of communication and a lot of information that we could try to access and make connections. And it's almost like he didn't miss a beat. So I don't know what we missed for Admitted Students Day, but I know
Yeah.
it was, he talks about it because he participates
Right,
in welcoming students.
right. He's on the other side now.
On that other side, but we weren't on the side of being parents, but just being, just seeing what he's able to share from a student perspective, and for us to kind of see him blossom through just all of the opportunities that are structured like that. I think I would strongly, recommend that students and parents take advantage of them, because Dean talks about them, but we were not on the parent side.
It's a nicely programmed day that kind of evolves, right? Based on your students' interest in the college that they're in. How about any other parents participate in that event? Go ahead. Anybody can jump in there.
Last year we did participate in Admitted Students Day, and to be honest, I don't think my son at first was that interested in going, because I think he thought he was not going to meet many students. And what he was surprised to find out was that many of the current students, we actually met Dean that weekend, were there and were an active part of it. So he was in sessions and he was like, I was actually with other students. He really thought it was the adults. He was like, this is for the parents, I'm going to be with adults. And he was pleasantly surprised at the welcoming nature and how excited the current students were. They got up early, they had a lot of energy, they were happy to welcome him. They were happy to welcome him all day. By the end of the day, he said, I just can't believe this many students came out for us. And for my son, in some ways, Villanova is a hard sell because I went there. So the fact that other people were telling him this is a wonderful place, it's not just your mom saying it, was enough for him to say, okay, now I understand. I really get why you like this community so much. So it was a real winner for us.
That's great.
If we can just add to that really quickly. So Admitted Students Day, when you arrive there early in the morning and the street is literally lined with cheering students who are cheering your kids for coming to campus. Like it's really hard to describe the energy that brings. And I've had multiple students tell me, yeah, when we ask them, why did you choose Villanova? And they will often say, Villanova maybe wasn't that high on my list, but I came to Admitted Students Day, and the energy on campus and the way that the people here, the students here, welcomed me really is what made me change my mind. So Admitted Students Day is really a powerful experience. Our kids didn't want to come because
They already knew Villanova, right? Because Villanova parents, and it's like, we don't need to go to this. We already know the school. All three of them were, oh my gosh, I am blown away by how kind everyone was. Right? The students show up voluntarily and they show up in droves to cheer on people, just like they got cheered on when
it helped our kids see Villanova as a place that could be their place and not our place.
And I think that translates even if you don't have an affiliation with Villanova beyond wanting your student to go there, but it's something different when you hear a parent or a family member say, we think this is the right fit. Getting in there and experiencing it on a day, fingers crossed, a beautiful day with that momentum and that energy from the students. I think, it's nice to hear that you feel it's as worthwhile as we do. Looking at the clock here, we're going to start to wrap up, and I would love to hear, we've had a lot of families ask for whether we can, I'll let you guys choose the ending here. We've gotten a couple of questions about what's your favorite tradition at Villanova, or what's one piece of advice that you would like to share either with a student or with a family member as they come to us here at Villanova.
I'll go first. Well, my favorite, or I think Dohn and our favorite tradition is Parents Weekend. That's like just an amazing time. But Dean told me Hoops Mania is his favorite.
Good to hear.
Yeah. I thought he was going to say Parents Weekend, and he said hands down Hoops Mania.
All right. Hoops Mania, it is fun. I don't get to go anymore, but it is. I do remember when that started. All right, Duff, what do you have to?
I'm biased. The orientation program is amazing. I have majority of my high school graduating class went to Michigan State. I went to Villanova. They attend a weekend in which they go through just like I know they go through like many other schools. It's a standard orientation program, and then they go home. You could be in the middle of summer. Villanova, it's right before you go to class as a freshman. So you go through, as Carita and everyone mentioned, it is a 4-day rigorous program. It is rigorous, and you learn everything from, and it may seem lame, and Anna mentioned it. It's a little hokey, But if you surrender yourself to it, and that's the one thing, as I said, if I could part any advice and wisdom onto anyone that's going to Villanova, thinking of attending Villanova, and it is a place that it will embrace you. It will welcome you. The students cheering on Lancaster Avenue, I see it in my head. It really is an incredible. It's a family. And the mom and pop reference was made. Villanova is different than any other school I've attended. Whether visits, Villanova was one of my daughter's choices. We told her she didn't have to go. She chose it. And this is coming from two parents who went.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Tradition or nugget of knowledge? Anna, I feel like something's brewing there.
Yeah, so I guess my piece of advice to parents would be to, let your child go and let your child make the decisions, start to adult. If your child is not happy in the major or in the school, wants to change majors, let your child make those pivot changes, listen to your child. And it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to see your child blossom in all these unexpected ways. So that's my piece of advice.
Thank you. That's a good one. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you very much for doing my job for me. I appreciate that. Anyone else in the last couple minutes?
I could add one wisdom. I will say, for me, one of the things that was interesting was really taking a backseat and letting my son take the lead at a school that I truly love and I'm very committed to. And I'm an active alum, so I'm around and I'm extremely connected. So I have learned that I really had to take a really far step back. And he has told me that I've actually done a good job. So that actually really does say something. He's been like, you know what, Mom, you were good. I wasn't sure, but he's like, you've been good. But I will say this, the one thing that was very important to me was that we stayed in communication. And what I encouraged him to do is we picked Sunday evenings as a time for us to either do a call or a Zoom. And it was one of those things where we said to him, it can be between this block of time. It can be between like 5 and 9, what works for you. If it needs to be later, you just tell us. And I have to say, for the most part, my son has stayed committed to that. And sometimes has said to me, you all didn't give me a time for this Sunday. Are we going to check in at 5:30? And I have really appreciated that he has also taken responsibility when we've had our busy weekends to say, Mom and Dad, we got to have our check-in. So I will say to you, if you can keep those lines of communication open, it's really important. Sometimes we don't even necessarily talk about school, but just knowing that, your family's here. I'm not on campus all the time. I'm on campus more than a lot of people, but not all the time. And sometimes I come to campus and I don't tell him, which actually I think he also appreciates because he's like, Mom, you have your Villanova story and I have mine. So it works out pretty well.
And to link to, I just want to be respectful of everyone's time here as we approach the 8 o'clock hour. I know I'm looking at the Q&A box and we still haven't gotten to all of the questions. I love the conversation that started here and it sounds like it's going to continue. What I would invite families to do is if you have some specific questions that we did not get to tonight, if you can go to VU, GOTOVU at villanova.edu to ask those questions. We will be more than happy, to get to all of those questions. Undergraduate admission, staff is there to answer these questions and to kind of help you get to that next level of understanding with Villanova. Thank you, panelists, so much for your time, your insight, your experience, and for sharing your students with us. It's been tremendous. I just want to throw up a quick slide, if I could, just about some upcoming dates and then contact information for me here. Thank you so much, Matt. We do have a couple of events coming up. If you want to take a quick screenshot of this, April 2nd, we have Investing in a Villanova Education. I know there was a lot of questions about scholarships, about financial assistance. That's a great evening where you're going to hear a lot of information from our colleagues in financial assistance. If there are any other questions about Admitted Students Day, April 9th is a great evening to also touch base to get a plan together for Admitted Students Day. And of course, Admitted Students Day will come together on April 13th. We really hope that all of you will be able to join us at that time. And then lastly, there are a couple of dates here that I know that they've been talked to on the student portal. But then also we've talked about them in the Communitas and first year experience. Move-in day, most importantly, is August 21st, and opening day and family orientation is the next day. That's Thursday, August 22nd. So for planning purposes, we really think that that's a pivotal day for families to get to know us a little bit more. They'll be able to attend the family resource fair, as well as some information sessions that are geared really to families learning more about the ins and outs of Villanova. Orientation is August 22nd through the 25th. Families, you are not part of that, so you can go home. That's the best part. You get to leave your student here. It's hard, but you get to leave them here and go through that fantastic orientation program we have. And if I can pitch my favorite weekend, Lynn, I'm with you on family weekend. That's coming up September 27th through the 29th. As much as we would love to keep talking with you, I invite you to continue the conversation with me at Parent and Family Relations. I'm your partner from here on out. As well as my colleagues in admission. I love this job. I love Villanova, and I love connecting people to the resources that we have so that the students really can experience this incredible place to its fullest and truly become who they are not yet. I believe in this mission, and I'm really excited to welcome you here to Villanova and to be your partner over the next 4 years, hopefully. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us, panelists. I can't thank you enough. This was fantastic. I think I even learned a few things, and I look forward to seeing you guys on campus very soon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.